Oh, there isn't.
Good. I did my sharing power. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen.
All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there, and they say yeah, and they say that.
Ladies and gentlemen, voters of New Orleans, today we have a very, very special guest, Miss Cyndi Nguyen. She is running for City Council District E. I want you to welcome her and give her a round of applause from wherever you're sitting or standing. Cyndi, welcome to Up in Smoke with your mayoral candidate, Frank Robert Janusa, the only candidate for mayor with USA in his name.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Delighted that you could come today.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful day.
It is.
And I anticipate we're going to have a beautiful 3-hour conversation.
Got it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe not 3 hours, because we all have work to do today.
That's right.
We've got to fix this city, number one. Cyndi, I read a lot of your biography, your background, but that's my reading of it. Give me your interpretation of, number one, why you're here, what your plans are, and how you feel about the future of New Orleans.
Yeah, it's a very tough question, and thank you for that question. So why am I here? Why am I running again, right? After spending 4 years in office from 2018 to 2022 during the most critical time in the city of New Orleans when COVID-19 impacted the entire city, Ida, and then the cyber attack. You would think that one would get it. But, you know, I love this city. I love the district so much. And serving communities have always been about, it's in my DNA. You know, I came over, Frank, when I was 5 years old from Vietnam, and my parents took that long journey.
What year was that?
1975. I was 5, and just the community itself embraced my family when we came over. And, you know, growing up as a very mischievous, playful little girl, you know, then as an adult, I recognized that it was my duty to give back to the community. And so just been working for the past 25 years in the community in different neighborhoods. And then the thought of running for office did scare me at one point. But then when you live in a district, particularly mine in District E, where things were not happening prior to 2018, I was frustrated, you know, and my parents has always taught me, like, hey, I gave you 2 hands, you know, a lip, an eye to see, a brain to use, you know, use it for the good of the community. And so that's when I, you know, venture out, you know, running for office. And, you know, Sean and I are working parents. We have 6 kids, you know, so it's not easy to finance, you know, a campaign, but, you know, we were able to kick it off.
Family is very, very important to you.
Yes.
As it is really to anyone who runs for public office.
Yeah.
Because ultimately the family that you have is not just your biological family, it's the family of the citizens of the city.
That's
because
right.
They are relying on people like you who are involved in the community, dedicated to people, and frankly, dedicated to the hope that's in everyone's heart to make this city really the Queen City of the South again.
That's right.
And District E, which is so vast, has so many beautiful elements in it. You know, how do you plan to interlace the elements that District E has with your focus on the future?
Yeah. So we actually started the work in 2018. And so when I got elected, you know, again, District E wasn't moving at all. And we talk about economic development. We talked about how do you revitalize a community that's sad with no activity. And my first task was like, okay, when people drive into the East, I want them to get excited about investing. I want them to pull over and patronize our small business owner, right? But they're not going to do that if they see a major commercial corridor at the high rise abandoned,
Right.
neglected.
All filled with graffiti.
Exactly. And so we all know that was a former caveman hotel.
Yes, yes.
So now it is a high-rise apartment
Correct.
filled with families living there. And I actually visited, and they just did a meet and greet for me a couple nights ago. And I was talking to the families that are living there. They're just like, they came from all over, and they said this is one of the best places that they lived. And so it's really smoothing to hear that. And then, of course, we had some other major corridor, but beautifying the area was very critical. So I'm going to continue that work because I believe that work was put on pause in 2022.
I read and I did some research on the internet about you, and I researched some of your campaign materials. And I find it, frankly, fascinating that in a city which is, frankly, male-dominated politically, at least at the top levels, you were able to generate, through your activities and your position on the city council, over $345 million of construction activity and new development in District E. Tell me all about that, because that's a third of $1 billion.
Correct. Very laser focused, but it was very strategic. I collaborated with all entity, with the mayor's office, with my colleagues. When I got into office, I actually rented a charter bus and took my colleagues, all district council member and council member at large, through my district. Literally showed them what I will be working on. Lincoln Beach, the Plaza, the Six Flags site. We took them all the way to Venetian now, and to show them how big the district, and took them over to the Lower 9 and look at all the overgrown lots and abandoned property. I said, this is what I will be working on, and I need your help. And I think that helps, that set the foundation, the conversation, to know that this is what Cyndi's going to be working on. And they, while driving through District E, they were able to see the infrastructure, our street issues that we were facing. And so I thought that was a very strategic strategy. And I plan to do that again, because I believe that when you work together, you also want to show them, demonstrate to them, like, this is what I'm talking about. I'm not bluffing. I'm not making this up at all. I'm not trying to be complicated. I'm trying to get things done for the people in my district.
Keep it simple.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think because of that, and also I made myself accessible and available to all of my colleagues for any questions. And they also saw the interaction that I have with my constituent. I was doing Facebook Live every week. Wow. When I was a council member. I ended up doing over 300 Facebook Live in 4 years.
That's amazing.
They know that I host in-person meetings with my constituent. And so the established meetings with community groups, they know that as a council member, I'm not just making these issues up, that these are really what the community wanted. And I was very fortunate to have good support, strong support from my colleagues. Despite our differences, I was still able to get things done.
Every morning when I wake up, I smell the sweet aroma of District E from the Folgers coffee plant. Every morning, 4:30 in the morning, I'm outside, it's pitch black, getting my newspaper. As soon as I hear that paper hit my grass and it bends the grass down, I know to go get it, because there'd be something exciting there. And I can smell that roasted coffee at that very, very same time. And I know exactly where it's at. And it's part of the New Orleans flavor, no pun intended.
That's right. Yeah.
I did a forum a while back. One of the few that I've actually been invited to, because, they go by these crazy polls and then they change the rules, but that's a whole different story. But what I remember was talking about, and I think this was voters east of the Industrial Canal. It was my first Zoom meeting.
That's right.
And I think it was maybe 10 days after I qualified to run on July 9, which was the first day, a Wednesday. And we were talking about New Orleans East in particular, and the area near the Industrial Canal. How the area, number one, is vast. It has what I coined the 3 R's. It's got the river, it's got the rails, and it's got the roadbeds.
Yep.
And these are perfect items for a transportation hub, an Amazon hub, rail traffic, river traffic. I remember years ago when I was a kid, and remember, I was born in 1951, so I'll be 74 next week. But I remember as a child, my parents taking me to the French Quarter, to the French Market, and getting the coffee and beignets when they used to have a drive-through in the back of the original morning call.
Really?
And you could see the ships you could see and hear the ships being unloaded with everything, grain, steel, cars, and most of that business inside the port was the shipment and reshipment of bananas from South America.
Wow.
Then sometime in the mid 70s, I believe, the banana business went to Mobile, Alabama. As a city councilman, how can you perhaps bring back some of that business activity, maybe reinvigorate what's available at the port now, and generate additional, not jobs for people. I don't talk about jobs. I don't want to create jobs. I want to create careers for people, because that's the most important thing.
That's right.
Because if you got a job, sometimes you think, well, I'll just hop from job to job.
Yeah.
If you get invested in a career, you have a tendency to stay there.
I like that. I'm going to have to steal that from you.
It's okay. You can do it.
Okay. All right. So I guess going back to the port and how do you create careers, right? So I think right now, and what I'm learning is that, I don't know if you are aware, but in the Low 9, particularly in the Holy Cross area, there's that grain train project.
Yes.
I think it's a very unfortunate situation where they're at today. I think that there was not collaboration at the beginning.
This is Sunshine Foods?
No, Sunrise. Yeah.
Sunrise.
So there was no collaboration or discussion, or community feedback from the port with the community. And so as much as I am always about economic development, but I'm also about how do you create a community, right? And making sure that our neighbors, because the Port of New Orleans, part of their area is connected to neighborhoods. And we have to be mindful about it when we do all these exciting projects, right? That we also need to engage our neighbors to be engaged and make sure like they know what's going on.
Exactly.
I think particularly with the Sunrise is that because neighborhood.
I've often wondered, why would somebody build or buy a house or rent a house right next to the railroad track?
Yeah. So I guess
you're right. It's been decades.
So they haven't used it.
And
So
they
I guess
well, nothing's going on there. I'll rent here. I'll buy here.
So we're still dealing with that issue. But I think moving forward, as Port of New Orleans, as economic agency, major regional, we also got to make sure that we are collaborating with our communities, right? Particularly New Orleans, because we're so much of neighborhoods, right? So I think that's one. I think the second thing for me is to really, particularly for District E, and how do you entice them to come into the area, right? And so I really believe, and this is something that I'm planning to do, is really looking at some incentive program to really generate that interest for them to invest into the district. The Almanassa area, which is the New Orleans Regional Business Park, has been labeled as a regional business park for decades as well, but there hasn't been any activities. And so I am working with several different developers to look, how do we reinvent that space, right? To make it look more modern, to make more of what we need today. So we do have NASA out there, which is awesome.
Yes.
Right? We had the brewery out there. They've already closed down. So I think it's and I definitely don't want it to be all trucking company, right? You want diversity in
the economic base.
And then also, like look at major type of business that could bring in good career, that could develop good career for people.
Do you remember McFrugal's?
Oh, yes, I do.
It's a name out of the past.
Yeah, exactly. Their warehouse got burnt down.
Yeah.
And so it's a thing we just got to rethink and then look at what we have today, people today, what type of career, that we want to really push for.
What do you think is going to happen on the old Lake Forest plaza site?
Yeah, what I would love to happen is for City Hall to move to that site. I believe that City Hall should be where the people are at. And if the majority of the people are in the East, then I believe that City Hall should be at that site. It can definitely help bring major development in. I think that if City Hall signs a 20-year lease, 25-year lease with the owner of the plaza site, I'm pretty sure we could actually build a lifestyle center, where people can work, live, and play.
One of the things that I've been researching since I joined the race for mayor is the number of buildings that the city of New Orleans owns, either through New Orleans Redevelopment or New Orleans Property Corporation. Why there are two, I don't know. But New Orleans has a number of blighted buildings, and one that I particularly honed in on was the 4400 block of both Dauphine and Chartres, which are parallel, right at the Industrial Canal.
Mm-hmm.
And these couple of buildings represent over 2 million square feet of unrenovated, uninhabited property. And I keep thinking, number one, when the city itself owns real estate, the city doesn't collect a dime of real estate tax
That's
on
right.
it. If, of course, private enterprise and private industry purchased it, and those buildings on the assessor's website are valued at $80 million.
So you're talking about the old Navy base?
Yes.
I don't think the city owns that.
Oh, yeah.
They do?
It's on the assessor's website. It says City of New Orleans. It was transferred a couple of times between the U.S. government and the city.
Okay.
And what's interesting about it is that I think about Delgado Community College, Delgado Trade School, and how if the city would redirect some of its budgetary funds, and I've got an idea in particular about that, where we can relatively quickly find $20 million, build a modest but effective trade school on part of the 65 acres that Delgado College has in Mid-City at City Park Avenue in Marconi. Generate a trade school there, invest in it with new teachers, new logistics, new computers, new training programs, and create careers for electricians, pipe fitters, plumbers, carpenters, and start the redevelopment of that self-same property. And that could be used for senior housing. Other candidates talk about we need to have 40,000 new units in the next 10 years. That would cost $40 billion, even at the cheapest possible per foot cost. So that is a way that I'm thinking outside the box to create something here which will benefit something here. Was the fact that New Orleans is becoming more and more unaffordable.
That's right.
And on occasion, less and less safe, particularly for the elderly.
That's right.
And to sort of put these two things together, particularly in District E, would really be a boon, not only to the economy, but to the people who might be forced out of either their rental apartment or their own home because of overtaxation of city real estate taxes and prohibitively expensive home insurance.
Yeah.
So District E is like the perfect place for something like that.
For which? For City Hall?
Well, both for City Hall and for senior housing.
Yeah, definitely we could use more senior housing in District E, because I know there is a waiting list.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons why we worked on the Lake Forest Senior Manor. So prior to in 2020, we were able to get that done. So we, through a private-public partnership with TKMG, we were able to get that property back into commerce. So 202 units were made available for our senior citizens right across from the library. And I, again, just visited the area the other day, and people love it. And so I think as we continue to look at District E, there's several factors that's really critical for District E is that, we got to work on blight, we got to remove all those blight. And so the 4 years that I was in office, I mean, we actually demolished over 140 blighted properties, and the work continues. When we get these property back into commerce and get development on, then the city is able to collect property taxes, right? Because I'm now hearing that we're in a deficit. Is it 65 million or 100 million?
Pick a number.
Yeah, pick a number from what I'm hearing. Yeah. So,
matter of fact, I heard today that one of the sitting council people who is running for mayor is now requesting that the legislative auditor, Mike Wagasback, come in with a team and make a determination what the budget deficit really is. Now, to me, as a CPA, I find that kind of interesting because the last set of full-year financial statements that the city has issued are the ones for 2023. And they issued them in July of 2024. On July 10th, I think it was July 10th of this year, the managing CPA for the CPA firm that does the city's audit comes before the budget committee and indicates that she has just received in the first week of 10 days of July of this year that she's requested from the legislative auditor and an extension. And he said, we'll give you 90 days if you need it, which would bring it up to the end of September. And she thought she would be able to get it finished by the end of August. To my knowledge, it hasn't been posted yet. So I'm wondering, how can you do a 2025 budget when you don't have the reflected information of 2025? And if you would like some wonderful late night or early morning reading, pull up the financial statements for the city. They're about 240 pages long.
I believe it.
Very, very interesting and intricate sets of information inside there. Some reasonably able to be interpreted by a layman. I've been in practice for over 52 years. And I read some of this stuff and I said, this is absolute nonsense.
Wow.
But that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
I'd like to get some personal history with you. You mentioned you were a mother of 6. I saw that in your biography.
Yeah.
But what really intrigued me was when you first decided to run for city council, which I think was 2018. Well,
2017.
2017 for the 2018.
Yeah, correct.
And you were discussing, I think, with relatives, and you said, I really don't know if I can do this financially because we're saving up for braces for our daughter, Shauna. And your daughter, Shauna, came to you and said, Mom, I can't wait a year for my braces. You run for city council. And you won.
Yeah, Matthias brings tears to my face all the time. I get emotional about that story. Yeah.
You know what it shows?
Yeah.
It shows that even young people can show love.
Exactly.
They're not all brats.
Yeah. But then it also shows, like, particularly for parents, like we're parents and that you work really hard to raise your kid to do the right thing.
Yes.
And then times, and we make sacrifices all the time.
Yes.
And we don't expect our kids to make sacrifices for us.
Right.
And when Shauna came out, I was speechless for the first time. And my husband didn't know what to say. And she's, by the way, she got her braces, okay? So I just want to make sure of that. But it was definitely a moment for me.
And now she's at LSU?
She's a senior at LSU now.
And what is she going to graduate in? What subject matter?
International affairs.
International affairs?
That's her major.
Beautiful.
That is her major. And she continues to be.
That's sort of like coming full circle from her parents and grandparents coming from Vietnam through here and now being involved in the international world.
But she's not going to do what I do. It's you got me there, Frank.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
It's not even lit anymore. Must have been a fleck that came in. I've been reading city business for probably 40 years. Matter of fact, in the early 1990s, when Bill Metcalf was reinventing and recapitalizing city business, I helped form a group to help him recapitalize it. And he did a fabulous job. It's obviously it's the premier business newspaper in the area.
Mm.
And you received their Woman of the Year award, which is a magnificent achievement, particularly for someone who came from humble beginnings. Because typically, somebody who gets the Woman of the Year, Businesswoman of the Year award, a Businessman of the Year award, they've got a minor mansion on St. Charles Avenue or Arlington Boulevard. And the fact that you have come from a loving family who traveled across the sea to get to freedom and opportunity, God, it just says the world to me.
Yeah. And I think that award really goes to the work of just helping other families to thrive in their own community. It was not so much for me. And I think, and if I remember calling, because I remember having that conversation, and because the Vietnamese community, many of them face a language barrier, cultural barrier. And through the work that we were doing,
I tried to read the bulletin for Mary Queen of Peace.
You don't try.
I did not try.
Yeah. And I think because of the work we were removing barriers for families, so that way they can go into business, and then that way they can invest, and they recognize the work, and so that's why I was honored and selected, and very humbled to receive that. I was like, really? Are you serious? You got the right person? Yeah.
When I went on the internet to, find your name, spell it correctly. Evidently, I'm confusing you with a facial surgeon, I think in Chicago, with the same name.
Really?
Yes. Same name, spelled the same way.
Oh wow.
It's amazing.
Okay.
So no, that lady's not naturally New Orleans. Cyndi Nguyen is naturally New Orleans.
I thought maybe you found the surgeon with the fact that I named myself behind Cyndi Lauper. Did you discover that?
No, I didn't get that.
Yeah, so that's how I got my name.
Girls just want to have fun.
Exactly. That's how I actually got my name, Cindy. So
spelled that same way.
Exactly.
Like
so my given name is Swan, Xuan. So when I became a U.S. citizen, the federal government allowed you to change your name for free. And I grew up idolizing Cyndi Lauper, like literally idolizing her. Like I had my hair cut like her. I spiked.
Did you have pink hair?
Yes, when I say I idolize Cyndi Lauper.
You don't think that your opponents would use that against you, do you?
Well, it is what it is. Okay. But growing up Vietnamese, and in a world that I didn't recognize, I struggle in it because I would go to school and I see Black kids, I would see white kids, I would see other kids. And then I see how they interact with their parents. And when I come home, we speak a different language. My parents are like very traditional. They were not very affectionist. It was like, hey, if I have food on the table, that's love. If you have clothes on your back, that's love. If you have a roof over your head, that's love. And I didn't know how to deal with it.
And sometimes if you get the back of the hand, it's also love.
Exactly. And I got a feel of that too as well. So I found Cyndi when I discovered Cyndi and her music, and I could relate to her. And I just love the fact that she was independent. She didn't worry about what people thought of her.
That's for sure.
And I was like, you know what? I really like that. And as I went to different areas during high school, Cyndi has guided me to be who I am and not try to be somebody that my parents wanted me to be. And for that, when the government said you could change your name, I said, Cyndi, Cyndi. I love my parents. I'm going to keep my given name in the middle and my last name. So Cyndi Swan Nguyen. That's the whole story. Was it hard to learn English as a child? Nuh-uh. Really? Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. For a kid, it's easy because you pick up so fast. Right. Once you get older, it becomes more challenging. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Your family, do you have brothers and sisters? Yeah, so I have an older sister, an older brother, two little sisters. I had a little brother who passed away. Oh, sorry to hear that. He's the one that my mom carried when we came to America. Oh. Yeah, when we took the journey, she was pregnant with him. Wow. Yeah. Wow. What was the naturalization process like for you? So when did you start it? When did it get completed? I had to wait until I was of age. Okay. And then I had to take the naturalization test. Mm-hmm. And then you got to take a written test. Which, by the way, most American citizens can't pass. I'm not going to comment down
I've
that.
seen the stats on it.
Okay, and then you have to be interviewed. You got to pass the test, and
Right.
you'll be interviewed. And then that's it. And then once you pass, then you come in, you pay your application fee, you get to change your name for free, and then you.
There's a song in that somewhere. You get to change my name for free.
Let me tell you, I love that. And I always said, this is the one thing that I get to do that I don't have to pay. And so I definitely wanted to take advantage, and then I definitely wanted to honor Cyndi Lauper because of such major role that she played in my life.
How is the Vietnamese community thriving or not thriving? How are they doing?
Yeah.
Because they seem to be isolated geographically from a lot of people.
And believe it or not, they like to be isolated. You know, they just kind of keep to themselves. I think we're thriving. We're the type of culture that we don't have to show off, or we don't have to show that we're thriving. I think for us is, you know, our family, that we're close to our family,
Right.
and that we're with our family. That's very important. But yeah, I think we're growing as well as a community. Now we've lost some people, population since Katrina. Many of them have left, but we're also seeing that they're coming back. And the reason why they're coming back, because when you look at it, the whole entire area, a Vietnamese person who doesn't speak English can survive in the village, because we're very Catholic based as our religion.
Yes.
And we all work together, you know. So, you know, our culture and our community are growing. You may not see it because we're just not that kind of culture where we talk about it, because we feel like that's just a natural flow. So we talk more about our family.
That's something else you and I have in common besides being mischievous young teenagers.
You were mischievous?
It's true. Ask anybody. But I got set straight by the Brothers of the Sacred Heart, God bless them, at St. Aloysius High School. Yes, you and I were mischievous teens. We're both Catholic, so we have two commonalities. What I'm interested in understanding is the Vietnamese community's involvement. It seems to me that while they are somewhat geographically isolated, they have done some amazing things in the business community and in the political community. They gave us Congressman Joseph Gao, who was just phenomenal in Washington, D.C. And if I recall correctly, he was a Republican.
Yeah.
Just like me.
Yeah.
So I have something in common with him. So this is a day to discuss commonality.
Yeah. And I don't know if you know, but this year marks 50 years that we've been in America.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
50
right.
years. Yeah, April, we commemorated our 50-year journey. So, yeah.
I think I saw some of that obviously in the newspaper recently, back in April. And it was also on one of the worldwide news stations.
Yeah.
Which America is such an interesting country because it's like a funnel. You know, people come through the big funnel, and with education, with knowledge, with love and care, we all come out of this little funnel, and we can be dropped into different communities and yet have a sense of family values, a love of education, and a love of country. Obviously, you know, being born here, by nature, I'm patriotic. But I find in the Vietnamese community, because I've spoken with many over the years and went to school with several in college, that they have a fierce patriotism for this country. And it's just, sometimes it's overwhelming.
Yeah. No. Listen, we are very grateful for the freedom, the opportunity. And so, yeah, you're 100% right.
And we have been blessed by your presence here. Truly,
thank you.
Truly.
You know,
I mean that.
Yeah, no, you know, we believe that we've contributed to society, you know, in many different ways. And we're going to continue, you know, and I think that's one of the reasons why, you know, when I decided to run outside from dealing with the finances, you know, I went to my father, you know, told my Mr. Nguyen, like, hey, I'm thinking about running for office. And of course, as you know, he knew me, you know, like, are you serious?
He probably knew you all your life.
Exactly, right? And then I was like, yeah, it's like, I really want to give back. He said, well, that's awesome, Cyndi, He said, but two things. I said, okay, what is it? He said, one, you better not shame the family. Two, whatever you say, you better make sure you keep that promise. Don't lie to people because I did not raise you that way. And that stayed with me.
Well, those are wise words.
Yeah. And he's only 5'1". I'm an inch taller than him. But he's very stern, and it really guided me, especially during COVID-19, Frank, when it all happened and I was a council member, there was no game book, right? They didn't tell you, like, as a council member, this is what you do, A, B, C, and D, right? You had to figure it out. And because I came from a family that we've always had to survive, you work within your means, you work with what you have. I think that has trained me.
You can't run a budget deficit in the family.
Exactly. No, that was not allowed at all. Well, you can because we didn't have any money. So, so I think because of that, it tuned me in. And then the journey that my family took from Vietnam to America, the journey, being on the ship, being out there in sea for days, I don't know how long, and not having access to resources and food. I think the food was the most critical when it hit me during COVID-19. Because as I stated, my mother was pregnant with my little brother, Monty. And so, I don't know if people realize it, but when we left, we could only take what's on we had to put everything on our body. You can't bring a luggage or you can't bring your suitcase because people were just trying to escape.
Yes.
And so food was very scarce on the boat,
How long was the journey?
I have no idea.
Because you were 5.
Yeah, I was 5. We were at the bottom of the boat because you had to be quiet leaving, and we were all smushed in together. So there was hundreds of us probably on that little vessel, just trying to escape. And then I remember just not having to have to get up my noodle bowl to my mom so she could eat, so she could stay healthy because she was pregnant. And so when COVID happened, it literally, and I haven't thought about my journey for years. But until when I got that call from the mayor saying, we're shutting down City Hall, there's a virus in the city. My thought is like, the people in District E, how are they going to get access to food? I was like, this cannot happen. We're in America. We're not a third world country. People can't be starving here. That literally triggered me. And I have to say that I was so blessed to have good partners like Giving Hope Food Pantry, that is run by Troy Duhan, out there in the East, and so many different groups that came and helped us and established procedure that was never planned, right? And we all worked together. And so our senior citizen, going back to the senior caucus, I was there, you were there. And I think that's one of the things that connected me to a lot of our seniors because I was there during that time, during COVID-19, when they didn't have anybody. And that really brought us closer more than anything, because I deliver food to them, making sure that they have healthy food to eat and resources and things that they need because they were so isolated.
It's interesting when you mention Mr. Duhan, who has a number of car dealerships. Mm-hmm. He came from very, very humble beginnings, as did you, and frankly, as did I. I remember beans and rice a lot of times in the evening. And I think that's part of my mindset why I want to give back to this city that has nurtured me and why you want to do the same thing. Because we know from whence we came and we know that we can bring hope to others if we exhibit servant leadership like St. Louis the Ninth, from whom our cathedral was named. He was St. Louis, King of France, an individual who became a king and ultimately was canonized as a saint. He used to bring humble, poor people to his castle and fed them for days on end. Servant leadership. And I keep talking about this in the various forums. City government in New Orleans overtaxes people, overregulates people, and overburdens people. My philosophy, and I'm not a political science major, I'm a CPA, okay? I'm a numbers guy. But the city needs to get input first from the individuals at the ground level and take that information and build the city government based on the needs, wishes, and desires of the people, not what the entrenched and dynastic political families want in the city. It's got to be a city that goes bottom up, not top down. Top down borders on a draconian exercise in futility. That's the best way I can put that.
Yeah.
And I used that phrase at a forum recently, and it really took heed. People took heed of it. And somebody called me up on the phone and said, I looked up what they meant, and Dora, you were right. Maybe 2 weeks ago, and I must admit, I got involved in this race July 9, and
that's when you decided to run?
No,
that's qualifying day.
That was qualifying day.
Okay.
I decided to run several months before that.
Got it.
But made the final decision, obviously, that same day. And I have been to many neighborhood association meetings, several forums. I was blessed to be on the Times-Picayune's stage with the top 3 because somehow I wound up with a 7% rating in the polls, which I'm very pleased to be at. I've worked so very hard, as has my campaign team, to get me to that spot. I believe I'm resonating with people. What I'm getting to is maybe about, I don't know whether it was 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago, because when you're running for public office, and this is my very, very first time, and frankly, my last time, I don't want to be too old and be in public office. I'll be 74 next week. But the people that have resonated with me were individual pastors at a meeting that I went to at the St. Paul Church of God in Christ, the 1000 block of Forstall, half block from St. Claude Avenue in the lower 9.
I was there too.
You were there, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. We waved to each other.
Okay, that's right. Yeah. It sounds like I recognize it.
Yes. And that's probably the first time that you and I saw each other, in the political sense. Well, you saw I think it was 8 or 9 individuals, mostly Black pastors, and some other minority individuals who were there, and a lady from a Catholic parish, Catherine Bakita's parish. And they were very forceful in describing to members of the Sewage and Water Board, the Department of Health, the DA's office, and NOPD, and the other agencies that were there, how very, very distressed, disturbed, and disgusted that they were with homelessness, activities on the streets that shouldn't go on the streets, dumped cars, tire dumping, and the general blight and malaise that has taken place in both the upper and the lower 9. And I'm just wondering, to what degree can we expect the city to actually act on their wants, needs, and desires?
Yeah. And so I could talk about the time that I was in office. Same thing that happened during the time was in office. I think one of the differences that we had a plan and we engaged the community in it. And so the time that I was in office, they didn't have that kind of meeting because they had a council member that listened to them, that recognized and knew what, and I was working with all of them and identify. We just did not have enough time, Frank. COVID happened, we had to shut down. Then once COVID was lifted, then we had to deal with the Hurricane Ida.
And then, having no power for it.
Exactly.
9, 10, 11 days.
Correct. And so, but as we move forward, being out for 3.5 years, I've had the opportunity to really reflect, I'm the type that, like I'll evaluate myself. Hey, how did I do? Or did I suck at it? I feel like, people, you can have room for improvement, right? No one is perfect.
No.
And including elected officials, right? That we need to be vulnerable to that and recognize.
The only one who was actually walked on water, and ultimately he died.
Yeah. So
but he resurrected, just like this city needs to resurrect.
Yeah. So
because what I don't want to do, and I've said this at a couple forums, this city financially is on the verge of bankruptcy. It really is. We've got $1 billion of bonded indebtedness. We've got this deficit, which is quantifiable somewhere between $65 and $100 million. Mm-hmm. We've got a $1.8 billion budget. But at the same time, we've got an economic development office that is budgeted for less than $2 million.
Correct.
And there's a question whether it's one full-time person and an extra part-time person, or whether there's 5 other people that circulate and matriculate inside this department. You can't create economic development with $2 million. That's 1/10 of 1% of the budget. At one of the forums, the individual who's asked that question said, yes, well, they've got a $2 million budget out of a $2 billion budget. That's 1% of the budget. And I had to say, no. You don't know your math. It's 1/10 of 1%. That's why the city is so goofed up, because the city doesn't do its budget, its math. It doesn't do its numbers correct. Mm-hmm. Economic development is so very important. What would your plan to be to bring District E to the vanguard of economic development in the area, given all of its natural resources, the 3 R's, the canal, and the lake?
So I think several things. I think several things. We got to staff up the economic development department to really be that partner with us. I think the second thing is to, as I indicated earlier, we got to incentivize people to come in, and be willing to invest. There's incentive programs already for the North Regional Business Area, particularly around manufacturing company. I think that is an area. I think if we create a very incentive program that's really going to entice them. We're the only one that has land out there, Frank, and you know this, right? And then, like you say, we have all the 3 R's out there.
Yes. And I also understand there are 343 species of birds at Bayou Sauvage.
Amazing, right? Why not? How come we're not capitalizing on that?
Ecotourism.
Correct.
Yes.
And I know that people are doing it. So I think there's an opportunity to rewrite the story. Okay, we just commemorate 20 years of Katrina just a few weeks ago. I am not writing the same story for District E, okay, of nothing. My plan is to rewrite the story that is going to be filled with development, that's going to fill with hope, that's going to fill with excitement, that's going to fill with opportunity, that people's going to come back home, that people's going to stay, that people is not going to talk about leaving. And that's my focus is going to be on those areas.
It's funny. Every time I hear this, I hear one of my fellow competitors talk about the 343 species. Because I'm a numbers guy, I realize that that's 7 times 7 times 7, which very interesting numerically, because it means the days of the week. It means the 7 deadly sins, and therefore the 7 virtues. That's how we get to 343. The numbers guy.
You are definitely the number guy then.
When you look at the city and District E in particular, what is the reason that there are limited large grocery stores for the populace?
Yeah, very good question. So I think there's several fronts. I think that redevelopment or working to getting stuff back into the E didn't start. It started late. We should have started in 2010. We didn't start until 2018 when I started working on the commercial blight property. Because any grocery store would drive by and see blighted property, then they may think that nobody lives here, right? And so rebranding and working on our image started late, but we're never too late to start, right? So we're going to keep focusing on the rebranding of the community. And then I also, at one point, if you remember, when I ran in 2017, people was like, and we actually had close to 12 Dollar Tree, Family Dollar in the district. And so I think that has also caused a hesitation for major grocery stores to come in. And because I actually went back when I got in office and visit with them. And they said, well, Cyndi, we're not going to compete with dollar stores, you know. And then I work on legislation. So now all these Family Dollar small box retail has to be 2 miles apart from each other.
Oh.
Yeah, so that, because you can't, as you know, you can't prevent commerce.
You can't clog them into a...
But you can spread them out.
Right.
But you can't prevent it from happening.
Sure.
But you can put restrictions. So that's something that I've learned. So I was like, well, let's just put 2 miles in. You know, the Family Dollar, Dollar Tree said, no, give us a mile apart from each other. I said, no, that's too close. 2 miles, because even though District E is large, you guys are going to be concentrating in one area, and that's not going to be healthy for the community. But I think moving forward, legislation that I passed, part of that was also giving food grocery store where when you come in, you don't have to apply for all these permits. You don't have to apply for your alcohol and permit to sell. I made it easy for them. I made it more welcoming. And I think that is something that I'm going to do. I know I'm going to do is to be more welcoming of business, right? You can't say, I want you to come in, but then you have all these restrictions. You got to go through this and do that. And going back to your safety and permit.
It sounds like the provisos on the zoning board, which I watch on Cox Channel 06.
You're like really retired now, huh?
No.
Like watching all that.
Oh, I tape them.
It's entertaining.
I tape them. That's how I got so involved in the inner workings of the city government, watching the city council meetings and the board of zoning adjustments meetings and the other committees that the council has and the other permitting programs.
Yeah.
Alcohol Beverage Commission, they're all there. Fascinating TV watching at 4 a.m. You know, I'm a night owl.
Yeah.
But I find it interesting that watching the city council, and obviously you've been a city council person before, I never have. What does the public perceive of the city council persons themselves as individuals and as the council as a whole? I mean, do they understand that these people have a job that they're working on for the people, or are some of them just grandstanding for the cameras?
I can
without naming names, of course.
Yeah, I can speak only for myself.
Sure.
Right. I know that when I was in office, I was working on stuff that impacts the people in District E. And I hear this all the time, boots on the ground.
Right.
I'm out there cleaning up when there's issues in the community. The only time I'm at City Hall was really for committee meeting or meetings, and that's it. But when issues come up, I'm in the community. And so I believe that's what my constituents perceive of me as a council member. And I also get that from people from outside my district too, particularly the fact when we went to the senior caucus, I had senior citizen that doesn't live in my district goes, I wish you were my council member. So it's really humbling.
That's heartwarming.
Yeah, truly, right? But I do hear that, like some council member grandstand. I don't grandstand at all because I feel like that's just a waste of my energy. I want to get to the roots of the issues, learn about the issues, and come up with a solution and get to work. And that's it. Yeah. I'm not doing this to be away from my family and play games. That's how I see it. It
would be a waste of time.
It's a waste of time. Then why would I give up time with my family and my children and just to waste time? Doesn't make sense at all for me.
No.
Yeah.
Where do you see the city going in the next 10 years?
Well,
given the fact that we've got this population loss that everybody talks about, and at the same time trying to mesh these two concepts together, we've got a population that's dwindling. I read or heard somewhere that we're the 5th fastest shrinking major city in the United States, which really bothers me.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we've got a voter registration population of 265,000 roughly. Yet in the last mayoral election, less than 29% of the people cared enough to vote. How do we reverse that process?
Yeah.
How do we intrigue people to get out and vote if they're already registered?
Yeah, and I battle with that all the time. And as a U.S. citizen and a registered voter, a person that appreciates the opportunity to cast my vote, I don't understand why people are not voting. I really don't, Frank. I struggle with that all the time. And then you sit there, you complain, and you whine about it, and then you have an opportunity to make a change. You come up with reason why you're not voting. That doesn't make sense at all to me. I'm a very straightforward shooter. It's like, don't bitch about it. You know, you got to make sure that you're part of the solution.
And it's always, not always, but a lot of the time, it's the people who don't vote that complain the loudest.
Yeah.
Which makes no sense. A little family anecdote. My oldest grandson turned 18 a few weeks ago.
Okay.
He completed his voter registration application. We took it downtown to the registrar of voters while he was at school, the original and the copy. I made certain that the clerk stamped the copy, so I've got proof. And likely the first vote that he will make in his adult life will be for his paternal grandfather as mayor of the city.
I'm pretty sure you.
And every vote counts.
That's right.
I'm counting on him too.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Every vote counts, and like I said, you know, I could never understand why people don't vote. I really don't.
Makes me crazy.
It irritates me actually, because when you're trying to make a difference and you're complaining and you're not part of the process of correcting it, you know.
I got tired of complaining. I actually filled my own potholes from Pontchartrain Boulevard to Fleur de Lis on 20th Street, where I live, where we've lived for 52 and a half years. Very simple. I go to Lowe's, I get 40-pound bags of concrete. I have a bucket, I have a shovel, and I have a hose. And I went up and down the street for 12 years and filled every pothole in that street. And finally, a week before COVID started, which would have been in February of 2020, because COVID started like March 10.
Yep.
We got the notice sent to all the individuals on the street. We're going to redo your street. Well, it took them 2.5 years to redo 700 feet of street.
Oh, wow.
But after 47 years, we got a new street. And now, in front of my house, water is percolating up from the asphalt street. And I've called 4 times now and have received no response in 6 weeks. So
we got to do better.
We got to do better.
We got to do better.
And I'm certain when you're on the council, things will get better.
Listen, I'm definitely going to work really hard. That's all I know. And, you know, but we got to do better for our people.
Cyndi, wrap up this wonderful conversation for us.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And I really enjoyed our conversation.
I'm delighted.
Got to learn more about you as an individual and as well as a candidate.
And you know what? We don't have a script to read.
No.
We're doing this heart to heart, person to person.
Wait, I thought you told me to read something earlier. I'm just kidding.
No.
No. Very unscripted, very natural conversation. And I think when you think about it, that's what, you know, just because a person get elected, that doesn't mean that they're mean to conversation and being down to earth. And we got to start making sure that we hold our elected official accountable, right?
I get the biggest kick out of one of my fellow competitors for mayor who's 6 feet 5 inches tall, who calls me young man, and I'm 6 years older than he is.
Take it as a compliment. Okay. Yeah, but no, this is great, and thank you so much for having me. I think for all the viewers, you know, I'm Cyndi Nguyen. You guys, I would not be doing this again if I'm not serious. You know, this is real work. I have a proven record getting things done. I'm boots on the ground. And honestly, you know what you get from Cyndi Nguyen. Transparency, integrity, commitment, hardworking, and accountability and accessibility. I think accessibility is really key because we have always complained, including myself, that when you elect somebody, once they get your vote, they disappear. With Cyndi Nguyen, I don't disappear. And you guys know that about me when I was in office. Love to get your support. Ballot number 55, Cyndi Nguyen for District East City Council. Thank you.
You got to win with number
Win with
55.
That's
Thank
right.
you, Cyndi.
Thank you.
Great conversation.
Yeah,
Best of
likewise.
luck to you.